Hello, everybody. I'm down in LA this weekend, visiting my sister in law. And today I drove my car down to Palos Verdes. That's Palos Verdes in the background there, the hill where I grew up. Spent my first 18 years. And I'm going to take a hike now up over that hill and around the back of the peninsula, and I'm excited about that. This is where my friend Brad Morrow lived, and it actually looks like his parents might still live there. Kind of looks like it hasn't changed much. Father was always busy raking up the leaves from this tree, one of the few trees around that loses leaves. And this is where my friend Bob Stassi lived. His father was really into horticulture and did all those amazing plants here in the front. And it looks like he might still be living there, his father. Looks like it hasn't changed much. That eucalyptus tree is still there, pretty massive. We used to have a fort up in that tree. And right over here across the street is my old house. I hardly recognize it. That's where I grew up, 3129. And this is my sidewalk. See this beautiful sidewalk here? I built this about 30 years ago, and it's still holding up. And the front of this house used to be ivy, and my mother put in this beautiful landscaping here with these railroad ties that are also still holding up after 30 years. And this jacaranda tree here is the one I planted with my mom. It's a very slow growing, but a very beautiful tree. Side of the house here, there used to be a gigantic bougainvillea there, it's gone. But this little bed on the side of the house was always my mother's pride and joy. She had her flowers there and everything. And now I'm going to start my journey. So I've been kind of fantasizing about this hike I'm about to embark on, leaving from my place of birth and walking, taking a long hike like I never did as a kid. Such a long hike. And I'm going to go through the paths to get to Malaga Cove Plaza and then hike up the hill. There are beautiful birds of paradise, I think. And this is one of the many back alleys of this neighborhood, and a giant eucalyptus tree. You can see all the eucalyptus, that's characteristic of this place. So this little secret pathway was also a place I would go a lot on my journeys with kids. We played a lot back in these paths, and it was the quickest way down to the golf course, where we also played a lot as kids. It's a big, huge golf course, and it's surrounded by a lot of open space, a lot of eucalyptus forests and canyons and gulches and dry riverbeds, where my friends and I would go and run up and down the hills and play hide and go seek in this big forest over here. So that's where I'm heading. I'm already just a few 2 minutes from my house. Already over there you can see the golf course, all that green over there. And as you can see maybe in the background, there's just a lot of space in between the golf holes, or whatever they're called. The golf course is built in the middle of this big, huge space that has a lot of empty space in between where my friends and I just played a lot as kids. And the smell here is really intense. It smells really beautiful here. A lot of strong fragrances. It just rained a couple days. It's interesting because my wife, Suza, who didn't grow up in a car-centered culture like I did, often would encourage us to take extra little walks around here in Palos Verdes when my parents were still living. We visited a lot. And she would just say, well, why don't we just walk home? And everybody else would say, well, walk? No, we have our car, we're driving. And it might literally be a 20-minute walk down here to Malaga Cove Plaza where we would get a coffee. And everybody would drive, and then Susan would say, I'm walking home. So then I got into it and learned there are other ways of moving, and you can actually walk quite well if you're not too lazy. But the Southern California lifestyle is very car-centered, so it helped me also to see how far you can get just by walking, and that it can be a lot more enjoyable to walk 20 minutes instead of driving a car for 5 minutes. I'm sure all of you Germans will think, but that's kind of the American style. So I'm just arriving at Malaga Cove Plaza. Funny thing, when Suza just first came here, she would go by a place like this and she would say, oh, so how many units are in this place? How many families live there? And I would just say, well, one, of course. This is Malaga Cove Plaza. It's a kind of a shopping area, mostly occupied by real estate agents. And there is a post office here, which is cool. It's been here since my childhood. And this is one of the nicer inner courtyards. So they built this place, I don't know, maybe in the 30s, and they built it with a Spanish architecture style. This is the main plaza area with this arcade. You can see it looks very authentic Spanish. This is the main plaza out here. Unfortunately, they haven't yet decided to get rid of the parking. I'm just leaving Malaga Cove Plaza to the west, heading out on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. And this path here is called the Turkey Trot. I don't know why, but I also came up here a lot as a kid, and I just wanted to say, Suza did encourage me to walk more instead of driving everywhere. But growing up, I was very active outdoors, and for many years I was in a jogging club with my sister and my dad called the PV Pacers, and we would jog up and down these paths around the city. And here you can see where we are. So right over there is the view of the Santa Monica Bay, Pacific Ocean. So I think a lot of kids grow up not being very active, and especially nowadays kind of stuck on their phones all the time. But luckily I did, as a kid, get out and play in the woods nearby, and at the golf course, and on all these trails. So I don't want to miss the opportunity of taking this picture, because that is the Pacific Ocean down there, and right in front of it there, the green grass and the red tiled roofs, is my middle school, Malaga Cove School. I went there for 3 years, and I remember one time a girl came to our school visiting from somewhere in LA, and she said, "Wow, how amazing, your school is right next to the beach with this view." And I was, you know, 10, no, 12 years old. And I just said, "Well, yeah, what's the big deal?"